The screen fades into the soft sound of wind brushing through the open fields. Then, a sharp, echoing whinny breaks the calm. The narrator speaks softly, with a tone full of emotion. Amy Fleming has faced heartbreak before, but nothing could prepare her for this. In Heartland Season 19, Episode 5, a tragedy strikes the Heartland Ranch. One that will break Amy's spirit and test her strength like never before. The sound of a heartbeat fades into silence. A slow, sad piano begins to play as the camera pans across the empty paddock. Amy's world has always been built around horses, healing them, understanding them, and loving them. But when the one horse she trusted most suddenly collapses, everything changes. Before the heartbreak hit, life on the Heartland Ranch seemed peaceful. Amy had finally found a balance between her work, her family, and her healing journey after losing Ty. The early scenes of Episode 5 open with warm golden lights spilling across the ranch. The camera follows Amy as she trains her horse in the open field, her laughter mixing with the sound of hooves against the dirt. There's a calm sense of routine, the kind that makes viewers feel like everything is finally okay again. Amy's bond with her horse isn't just about training, it's about trust. Over the years, she's learned to communicate through silence, a gentle touch, a quiet whisper, or a look in the eyes. This horse, her loyal companion, isn't just part of her job. It's part of her soul. In many ways, it represents the piece of Ty that still lives in her heart. Every ride, every training session feels like a conversation between two old friends who understand each other completely. The episode carefully builds this connection before tearing it apart. There's a beautiful moment early on where Amy pauses, looking out at the horizon, her horse nuzzling against her shoulder. It's a symbol of peace, of healing. The kind of scene that makes fans think, maybe, just maybe, Amy's heart is finally healing. Meanwhile, life around the ranch continues with its usual rhythm. Jack is fixing fences, Tim is arguing about new business plans, and Lindy is running through the stables with her tiny boots covered in mud. Everything feels right, warm, familiar, and safe. It's the calm before the storm. But as the sun begins to set, the mood shifts ever so slightly. The camera lingers longer on Amy's face. Her eyes look distant, thoughtful, almost as if she senses something coming. The music fades into a low hum, and the screen holds a moment of stillness. Narrator voice lower and slower now. Sometimes, life gives us signs we don't understand. Sometimes, peace is only there to remind us how fragile it really is. Amy finishes brushing her horse and whispers something softly. A line fans will remember long after the episode ends. She says, "You've carried me through so much. I don't know what I'd do without you." It's a moment so tender, so real, that it feels almost like a goodbye. The episode ends this section with a breathtaking shot of Amy and her horse galloping across the open field, framed by a sunset that feels too beautiful to last. The camera slowly pulls back as the music swells, and even without words, the audience feels it. This piece won't last long. As the screen fades to black, one thought lingers. In Heartland, every ending is the start of another challenge, and Amy's hardest one is just about to begin. The morning begins like any other. A soft breeze moves through the trees, and the camera pans across the quiet ranch, the fields glowing with pale light. Amy walks toward the stables, coffee in hand, a gentle smile on her face. Everything feels peaceful, almost too peaceful. Her horse, standing quietly in the stall, greets her with a soft nicker. She laughs, brushing its mane as she whispers, "Ready for another big day?" It's a small moment of joy, one that hides the storm about to come. As Amy saddles up, the background score turns faintly uneasy. A low hum beneath the usual sounds of the ranch. Something feels different, though nothing looks wrong. The camera lingers on the horse's eyes, calm but tired, like it's carrying a silent pain. Out in the pasture, Amy begins her training routine. The light is bright and golden. Everything looks alive. But suddenly, in the middle of a gallop, the horse falters. Amy's laughter fades into silence as the camera slows down. The world around her blurs. The sound of hooves stumbles. A quick cry cuts through the air, and then, a heavy, heart-stopping thud. The horse collapses. Amy rushes forward, her hands trembling, calling out desperately, "Come on!" "Get up, please." Her voice breaks with every word. The camera stays close to her face, tears forming, breath short and panicked. There's no dramatic music, only the raw sound of her voice and the wind echoing in the distance. Jack and Tim come running from the barn, their footsteps heavy on the dirt. They can see it. The fear in Amy's eyes, the motionless body of the horse. Time seems to stop. The next few minutes are almost silent. Amy kneels beside the horse, her hand resting on its neck, whispering over and over, "You're okay. You'll be okay." But the truth settles in slowly, too slowly for her to accept. The screen fades between flashbacks. Moments of them training together, riding across fields, the sound of her laughter mixing with the echoes of hooves. Each memory hits like a wave, pulling her deeper into grief. Then, as the vet arrives, reality becomes impossible to avoid. A soft shake of the head. No words. Just the quiet weight of loss. Amy's hand tightens on the horse's mane and she whispers one last time, "Thank you. For everything." The music swells, not loud but haunting. A piano melody carries the scene as the camera pans upward toward the sky. The ranch feels empty now. Even the air seems heavier. Lindy's voice calls out faintly in the distance, asking where her mom is, but Amy can't answer. She stands frozen, her hands covered in dirt and tears, staring at the still body of the friend she just lost. Narrator. Soft, heavy tone. For Amy, this isn't just the loss of a horse, it's the loss of a part of her heart. The part that still believed everything broken could be healed. The screen fades to black. A single sound remains. The echo of hooves, distant and fading, like a memory slipping away. The screen opens in silence. No music, no dialogue. Just the wind moving through the empty paddock. The stable door creaks slightly in the breeze. The stall where Amy's horse once stood now looks hauntingly bare. A halter hangs on the wall, still covered in dust, still waiting for a horse that will never return. Amy stands in the doorway, her face pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She isn't the same person we saw just an episode ago. Her strength, the quiet fire she always carried, seems dim. She brushes her hand along the empty stall door, her fingers trembling, as if she's afraid to let go. The next few scenes move slowly, almost dreamlike. Amy walks through the ranch doing her chores, but it's clear her mind is somewhere else. She feeds the horses, cleans the stalls, and fixes tack. But there's no life in her eyes. Even Lindy's laughter, usually enough to bring her back, doesn't reach her anymore. At dinner, Jack watches her closely. He knows this silence too well. It's the same one she had after losing Ty. He doesn't say much, just quietly sets a plate of food in front of her. Amy barely touches it. Tim, restless and uncomfortable with emotion, tries to lighten the mood with talk about rodeos and business, but even he stops when he sees the emptiness in Amy's eyes. Later that night, Amy sits alone in the barn. The light from her lantern flickers softly. She holds her horse's old bridle in her hands, tracing every scratch and worn spot, each one telling a story. A tear slips down her cheek as she whispers, "You were my peace. You were my strength." The narrator's voice fades in, gentle but filled with weight. Grief doesn't always arrive with loud sobs. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, in the things we still do, the places we still go, and the love we can't let go of. A short flashback cuts in. Amy riding freely, the sound of her laughter carried by the wind. Then it fades back to the present, her sitting motionless, surrounded by silence. Jack enters the barn quietly, his boots crunching on the straw. He doesn't say her name right away. He just stands beside her, looking at the same empty space she's been staring at for hours. After a moment, he finally speaks, his voice low and steady. "You can't carry it all, Amy. You couldn't have stopped it." She doesn't look at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was supposed to protect him. I'm supposed to save them." Jack sighs deeply, putting a hand on her shoulder. "You did. You gave him a life full of love. That's more than most ever get." For a brief second, Amy's face softens. Her lips tremble, but she doesn't cry. Not yet. She's holding it in, the same way she's always done. The camera lingers as Jack leaves. Amy remains still, staring into the lantern flame, lost between memory and guilt. The screen fades slowly as the narrator's voice returns one last time in this section. The hardest part of healing isn't saying goodbye. It's believing you'll be okay once you do. The light dims. The flame flickers out. Darkness. Only the faint sound of wind remains. The next morning, the light over Heartland looks different. It's softer, colder. The kind of light that comes after a storm. The ranch is quiet except for the sound of horses breathing and birds rustling in the distance. Amy stands by the fence, arms crossed, her eyes on the horizon. She hasn't smiled in days, but in her stillness, there's a flicker. Not of happiness, but of strength trying to return. A truck pulls into the yard. The sound breaks the silence. Inside, a young woman steps out, nervous, holding the lead rope of a wild, restless horse. The animal's eyes dart around, filled with fear and anger. The woman looks at Amy and says quietly, "They told me you could help." Amy doesn't answer right away. She studies the horse, its trembling muscles, the way it jerks at every sound. For a moment, she sees her own pain reflected in its fear. She wants to turn away, to say no. She isn't ready, not yet, but something in her refuses to walk away. Jack watches from the porch, his expression gentle but hopeful. He knows what's happening. The moment Amy decides whether she'll keep living in the past or start moving forward. Amy takes a slow breath. "Unload him," she says softly. The next scene plays like a silent dance. The new horse stomps and snorts, fighting every attempt to calm it. Amy approaches carefully. No rope, no tools, just presence. She moves slowly, speaking in that quiet, steady voice fans know so well. "It's okay. No one's going to hurt you." At first, the horse rears up, pulling away, wild with panic. Amy doesn't back down. She doesn't force it either. She just stands still, letting the moment breathe. The music swells faintly. Not sad this time, but cautious and full of warmth. Narrator, calm, hopeful tone. Sometimes healing begins when we stop trying to fix everything and simply show up. As minutes pass, the horse begins to settle. It lowers its head slightly, snorting, eyes softening. Amy takes one step closer, then another, until she's standing within reach. Slowly, she reaches out her hand. The horse hesitates, then presses its muzzle against her palm. For the first time since her loss, Amy exhales. A real breath, deep and trembling. Her eyes glisten, but this time it's not from pain. It's release. Later that evening, she's in the barn brushing the horse gently. Lindy walks in, holding a small drawing, a picture of Amy with her old horse. She looks up at her mom and says, "He's in heaven now, right?" Amy smiles faintly, the kind of smile that comes from deep understanding. "Yeah, sweetheart," she whispers, "but I think he sent me this one to take care of." The camera pans out. Amy and Lindy standing together in the golden barn light. The new horse calm beside them. Narrator's voice fades in again. Grief doesn't disappear. It changes shape. It becomes the quiet strength we carry. The voice that tells us to keep going. The music grows brighter, full of soft guitar and light piano. The ranch looks alive again, the air moving, the sun glowing. Amy leads the new horse out into the open field. The camera follows from behind as she walks confidently, wind in her hair, her steps steady once more. And for the first time in a long time, the light around her doesn't feel heavy. It feels like hope. The screen fades to black with one final line from the narrator. Amy Fleming has faced loss, heartbreak, and fear. But this time, she's found something stronger than pain, the courage to begin again. The morning sun climbs slowly over the Heartland hills. The air is clear, and for the first time in weeks, the light feels warm again. The ranch stirs with life, horses neighing, the faint sound of a hammer from Jack's workshop, and birds gliding over the open fields. Amy stands in the middle of the corral with the new horse, no longer the trembling wild creature it once was. The horse circles her slowly, eyes fixed on her every move. She doesn't speak much. She doesn't have to. Her movements are calm, deliberate, confident. Each step she takes feels like part of a story she's finally ready to finish. The narrator's voice enters softly, thoughtful. Healing doesn't come in a rush. It arrives quietly, in small moments that tell us we're ready to try again. Amy raises her hand, giving the signal she used to give her late horse. A quiet cue, a gesture of trust. The new horse hesitates, then mirrors the movement perfectly. A faint smile breaks across Amy's face, the first real one since the tragedy. For a moment, you can see it. The spark of the woman who once believed she could heal anything. Later that day, Tim finds her out in the pasture, working tirelessly. Dust rises around her boots as she moves from one pen to another. He calls out, half proud, half worried. "You've been out here all morning. You don't take a break, do you?" Amy wipes the sweat from her brow, her voice calm but strong. "I took a break once, Dad. I almost didn't come back." Tim doesn't argue. He just nods, because he knows she's not talking about work. The episode shifts tone here. The pacing quickens, the music carries a heartbeat rhythm. Amy starts helping other horses again. Word spreads around Hudson that she's back. Stronger, steadier, different. People bring her horses that no one else can handle, and she accepts them all. One by one, there's a beautiful montage. Amy leading frightened horses through open gates, whispering to them, teaching them to trust again. Each horse she saves feels like a step toward saving herself. But the real test comes when she faces a challenge she never expected. A horse arrives at Heartland injured, scared and unpredictable, the kind that reminds her painfully of the one she lost. The camera holds on her face, fear flickers in her eyes, the kind she thought she'd conquered. Jack stands nearby, silent but supportive. She hesitates, hand on the gate. Then she closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. The wind picks up, rustling through the trees, almost like a voice whispering, "You can do this." Amy steps forward. The horse rears up, kicking wildly, but she doesn't move. She just stands still, her posture strong, her voice low and certain. "It's okay. I'm here. You're safe." Minutes pass. Slowly, the horse begins to lower its head, muscles relaxing, eyes softening. Amy reaches out, steady, fearless, and touches its neck. The narrator's voice returns, steady and reflective. "Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is open our hearts again, even when they've been broken." As the horse finally calms, Amy exhales a long, trembling breath. Her eyes close, a tear slipping down, not of sorrow, but of peace. Jack smiles from a distance, tipping his hat. "That's my girl," he mutters softly. The music swells, soft guitar layered with piano. As the camera pans out to show the Heartland ranch glowing in the late afternoon sun, Amy stands in the center of it. All small, strong, and unshaken. Her journey isn't over, but for the first time, she isn't afraid of what's next. The screen fades to black as the narrator speaks the final line of the section. Every scar tells a story, and Amy's story is one of strength, love, and the unbreakable bond between a girl and her horses. The sun begins to set over the Heartland Ranch, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and pink. The light rests gently on the open fields, where the horses graze peacefully. The same place where Amy once faced her greatest loss. But tonight, the air feels different. It carries peace instead of pain. Amy stands by the fence, her hair moving with the wind, watching the horses run freely across the pasture. The new horse, the one she helped heal, gallops with effortless grace, its mane catching the sunlight. Amy smiles faintly, a quiet smile that says more than words ever could. The narrator's voice enters softly, reflective. "Time doesn't erase our pain. It teaches us how to live with it. It shows us that even in loss, there's room for love again." The camera moves closer to Amy as she turns toward the barn. Inside, the light is warm and golden. Photos line the wall, Ty, her family, and now a small picture of her late horse. She pauses for a moment, touching the frame gently, her fingers tracing its edges. There's no more trembling in her hands, just stillness, acceptance. Jack walks in behind her, quiet as always. "You've come a long way, Amy," he says softly. She nods, her eyes glistening. "I thought I'd never get through it, Grandpa, but I did. Because of them. Because of this place." Jack smiles, looking around the barn. "Heartland's always been about second chances. You just needed to give yourself one." The camera pans out, showing Amy and Jack standing side by side as the warm light fades around them. The air feels heavy with meaning, like something has come full circle. Later, Amy walks to the paddock where Lindy is waiting. Her daughter holds a small wooden charm in her hand, carved in the shape of a horse. "It's for you, Mommy. Grandpa helped me make it." Amy kneels down, taking it carefully. "It's beautiful," she says, her voice soft and full of emotion. "Thank you," Lindy smiles. "It's so you don't forget him." Amy looks toward the horizon, eyes reflecting the last light of day. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispers, "I'll never forget him. But now, I think I can remember him with a smile." The music begins to swell, a gentle mix of piano and violin. The camera cuts to a wide shot of the ranch at dusk. Horses running freely, the sky glowing orange, the mountains standing tall in the distance. It's peaceful, simple. Everything Heartland has always been about. Narrator. Final reflection, calm and heartfelt. Heartland has always been more than a ranch. It's a place where pain turns into purpose, where love lingers even after goodbye, and where broken hearts find the courage to heal. Amy's journey reminds us that loss doesn't end a story, it transforms it. The final scene fades in, Amy walking hand in hand with Lindy across the field.